All right. Thank you guys all for coming today, and thank you, Hudson. Hudson is my favorite person in the world. Wow. Okay.
I mean, I feel like maybe that's, so I'll take it.
Don't tell my kids or all of you. I met Hudson in 2019 when he trekked all the way up to the snow in Illinois to teach us bold. And then we've been pals ever since. And we got him back to bold up in Illinois to go back to the freezing weather again this last October. And I left him halfway through to come be with you guys. So he hails from the Tampa area though. So it wasn't a long drive for him to come down and teach you. So I'm extremely pleased to introduce you to the Market Center, Hudson Ward. These are our people.
Awesome. I didn't even do anything yet. That's cool. I know you're recording. Do you want me to like?
They don't, whatever you want to do. Don't
It doesn't matter.
World.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys having me here today. So my name is Hudson. I'm an agent first. I've been an agent since 2006. I've sold in 3 different markets in 2 different states because I like a challenge apparently. I have been in Florida since 2014, and I have a smaller expansion team. We cover everything from Marco Island up through Tampa Bay and then out to Orlando and growing and looking to grow more in your area. We are currently, our agent in Punta Gorda comes all the way up here, which is far in case you aren't aware of that. So I live in that world, and we ended last year at 206 closed units and just under 60 million in volume. So that was really cool. It's the 2nd year in a row that it only took me 14 years to get to it. And yet it's our 2nd year in a row that we've hit MREA status or exceeded it, which was super cool. And then I'm also a MAPS coach, and within the MAPS world, I coach bold. I don't really do one-on-one coaching. I do some productivity coaching in my market center up in Tampa, and yet I'm a bold coach, and and you have got yourself a fantastic new team leader here. So I trust that you're all realizing that right now, and if you haven't, she's quite a gem. I meet a lot of them, and they're not all created equal. We'll just put it that way and stay in culture. So that's what I do. I also live a super busy life. So, I'm sure, like, is anybody just tired from this market? Yeah. Okay, cool. So on top of doing what you do and then doing the bold thing and traveling, I also have 6 children.
Wow.
That is the accurate response to that many children, by the way. So 6 children from 6 months old to 10 years old. And all the activities that come with that. And we also just did an unplanned move in December because an amazing house came up that fits our giant family. So now we're in the middle of a massive remodel while living in the home. So just know that anything I share with you today, it's not like theory. It's not, while there's obviously some overlap, like it's not an MREA class, because that's not what I'm here to do. Like I'm here to share things that we actually do and have done in order to succeed. So none of it's theory and all of it's real. And I get you and I feel you, and I won't judge you if you fall asleep in class, because you probably showed 32 houses this morning. So although don't fall asleep in class, that would be weird. So we're here to talk about, and that's my information. I have it on the last slide too. If you ever had a question or there's any way I can help you, I mean, my highest and best use is to help people and leave them better than I found them. So use that if you choose to. So we're going to talk about listings today. I don't know if you were aware. We're not talking about command. Thank goodness. Yeah, right. So we're going to talk about listings today, and let me tell you too, I'd like this to be interactive, truly. So if you have a question, don't be afraid to interrupt me. I'm not going to be offended. If you've got something that you do, like if there's something that you do or have done that has brought you success in the world of listings, don't be afraid to share it. Like I am not the smartest person in the room. I'm just the guy up front. So I want to start at the beginning. So when I talked to Rebecca about what she wanted us to talk about today, we came up with this idea of life of a listing, because it's easy enough to be like, just go get more listings. Listings are easier. Like I'm sure you've all heard that. And yet I want to start from the beginning and go through the end and beyond, honestly. And so the first thing I want to talk about is why listings? And I feel like obviously most of you have probably heard this before, and yet I don't know if any of you are like me, maybe you forget things sometimes or lose sight of things sometimes. So, one thing with listings is that, and I don't know if you're aware of this, and this is like a literal statistic, FYI. Because NAR does studies and they track realtors and how much time from, hi, Mr. Lead, to getting a paycheck they spend with buyers and sellers. And so in the amount of time it takes you from, hello, nice to meet you, Mr. Buyer, to getting your check, you could have serviced 4 listings. And the truth is that statistic is like 2 years old. So I would venture to bet that it's 5 or 6, because I'm going to guess that you guys are spending more time with your buyers as much. I'm sure you love them and all, and yet you're probably showing them 82,000 homes and writing 36,000 offers. It's insane. And so I just want you to keep that in mind as we talk today. I want to flip the script on you a little bit and stop focusing on how hard it is to get a listing and start remembering that you are literally buying your time back. And I feel like, and maybe some of you in the room are the same way, like, where do you struggle the most? Like, do a lot of you struggle with time, whether it's time management or having enough of it? Anybody?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is a way to buy your time back. And what I really like about that, because, and I am a bold coach, right? So like, business objective, a life by design. Like, I live a life by design. I didn't always. It took me a long time to figure it out. Buying your time back is a life by design, because at that point you get to choose. If your production level now is great and you're buyer heavy, you could keep your income the same and work less. Yay. If you want your production to go up, you could work the same amount and earn more by taking more of a focus on listings. So as you listen today and as you go out into the world and do all your realtor-y things, like, I want you to keep that in mind. You buy your time back when you work listings. You also have a way higher probability of getting paid. Like, I don't like, I love people. I'm very charitable, and yet, like, this is not my charity. Like, if I'm going to spend time with people, then I want to get paid for this. And I don't, you could get a buyer broker agreement for every single buyer that you work with. That still doesn't mean that they're going to buy. Like, they are people getting priced out of the market left and right now. It's insane. I feel like we're living in a bizarro world. And so you get a listing, like, unless it's literally falling down, and even then you have a pretty good shot. Like, you can slap any price on it, you're going to get it sold. I mean, who here has ever worked in expireds? Okay, cool. How many expireds a day are there in your area?
Now?
Yeah.
Maybe 5.
1, 2, 3, maybe 5. Y'all, like, when you take a listing, you're going to get paid. And you're going to work less. And so I like making more money and working less. Call me lazy, I don't care. If you like working with buyers, great. When you have the listing, they come to you. Again, I know this is not groundbreaking stuff, and yet I also know that if this office is like, every other office that I know, you're way buyer heavy. So like, the buyers will still come to you. You don't have to give up any buyers. And this is why I would encourage you to spend more time pursuing listing clients, because you'll still get your buyers. You'll get to show the properties and play HGTV, and it's all super fun. They come to you naturally. All right, so that's another reason. You can also, like, if you maybe want to live in a bubble, it's a lot easier to do that as a listing agent. Think about it. If you're listing driven, you can really control your area. You can do it through farming and being strategic with who in your database that you're really communicating with at a high level. It's harder to do that with buyers, because buyers are all over the place. Most buyers aren't looking in one neighborhood. And yet you can take listings in one neighborhood. I mean, there's multiple agents that I can think of up in my area where I know the agents better that don't leave their communities pretty much. So it also gives you that opportunity to spend more time at home and to work from home and to kind of work a tighter circle. The other thing that I just want to touch on while we're here before we get into actually how to go get a listing is I want you to be careful what you buy into. Yeah, like, how many of you have either complained or heard somebody complaining about there's just no listings available? Anyone?
Yep.
Cool. That's literally the most untrue thing ever. Like, last year was the highest number of sales in this country since 2006. And I don't know, like, I'm no math major, except for every buyer, there's a seller. So while so many agents are getting caught up in, oh, it's so hard to get a listing, and I'm not saying it isn't harder, there's so many of them out there. Like, there's so many listings, and while you or your friend asking for a friend. While your friend is complaining about the fact that they're so hard to get and buying into the idea that they're so hard to get, so I'm just gonna focus on buyers, like, they're literally all out there. And so just go get them, like, stop believing that stuff. All right? Who here has actually taken a listing in the last 30 days? Oh, that's a beautiful thing. Cool, keep doing that. I'm super into that. Yeah. Okay, sorry. I just saw the hand. I'm real, she knows, my peripheral vision is very sad. So if you have a question and you're like on the side, just throw something at me or yell, like this is casual and we're gonna have a good time today. So let's talk about actually getting listing leads. All right, I would love to hear from maybe 2 or 3 people in the room where your last listing came from, like where the actual lead came from. Who will share? Yes, ma'am. Vendor? Oh, you're smart. I like that about you. That's, yeah. Well, you all have, I'll get there in a minute. Like, you all have vendor partners in your world. You give them all your business. How funny that they don't give you any for most of you. That's amazing. Yes, somebody over here, yes.
It was sphere of influence, it's a past client.
Sphere of influence. Did they, and no right or wrong in this, like, did they come to you just naturally or were you proactively prospecting?
Yeah.
Okay, which is great. And somebody over here, yes.
KW referral, agent referral.
Awesome. That's like, hey, that's a full gamut. We didn't get the same answer from anybody. That's cool. All right. There's a lot of different ways. I know you've heard this so many times and you can even roll your eyes. You want to, like, you have to start with your database. You have to. There's 82 different technology platforms coming out a day that want to put you out of business. And yet what they cannot recreate is an actual tight human relationship. So start everything with your database. And I'm not here to be like, that doesn't mean that's the only way that you get business. It just should be your most top of mind thing. It makes you impenetrable when the market changes. It makes you impenetrable when the next Zillow comes out. Sorry if you buy Zillow leads. Okay, so your CMA. And what I would be doing right now, I mean, if I travel a lot for Bold, so I don't do as much business. My team does the bulk of the business. If I was like having to get listings left and right now, I would just be calling through everyone I know who owns a piece of property in my market area at all. And I'd be giving them CMAs. I wouldn't ask, I would tell. Like, I would call, I would have a human conversation to begin with, because after all, these are people in your sphere. So you're not just gonna call and say, you know, hey, John, your house is worth $450,000. Would you sell it? Can I list it? Let's go. Like, no, you're gonna call and you're gonna have a normal conversation and ask how they're doing and catch up with them. And then towards the end, you're going to say, hey, I consider myself your real estate resource. And I really wanted to let you know what your property is worth. And it's worth roughly whatever the number is. And then just be quiet and see what they say. I'm telling you, there are, and when I say to do this, my advice is do this with anyone and everyone in your database that owns a home. I don't care if they bought it 3 months ago. There is an agent that I'm friends with in my office who just closed a new construction deal 2 months ago for 1.3 million, and she's listing it for $2 million in a week. Because the builder's time is like 18 months, because it's like a luxury builder. There's nothing else available within 10 miles that's anything like it, and he'll probably get it. So don't judge your people. And you know, I think another thing to keep in mind is that you don't know, I mean, there's people that you're really close with and you probably do know everything. For most of your people, even if you're tight with them, like, you don't know what's going on in their world. You don't know if they've gotten a job transfer, a demotion or a promotion. You don't know if they've lost their job. You don't know if they're about to lose their house, because people don't tend to advertise that type of stuff. And when you tell them what the home is worth, not only do you set yourself up to get more listings, like, you really are truly serving people. Because if you're not giving them the information, I promise you they're going somewhere else to get it. Because you all live in the real estate world, you have to remember that people in this country are obsessed with real estate at a stupid, ridiculous level. They will watch HGTV on repeat, and they will go to Zillow 82 times a day to check the value of their house. Why aren't we having the conversation? Is it, oh, what'd you say in the back? Because you think you're bothering them. Nobody actually said it. I know that. You've got to stop looking at things that way. They want to hear from you. They want to know what their house is worth. And the only time it gets like creepy or anything that seems negative is if it's all you do. And if you lead with it. And if you say, hey, it's worth this, can I sell it? Just tell them what it's worth. They'll tell you, bless you, you know, hey, that's so amazing. Thanks for letting me know. Or, hey, that's really amazing. Wait, how's it like to buy right now? You know, maybe they've got hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity and they don't want to move. What about investment properties? Are you helping your clients build wealth? Now, I know we're getting out of listings there. And yet by having the conversation about what their home is worth, I'm telling you right now, you're opening up opportunity for you and for them because they don't know. All right. Yes, ma'am. Multiple questions. You're good. You're up.
So to your point, anybody I talk to from Circle Prospecting, I'll set them up on a monthly market report. You know, I ask them, I invite them when they like it. they'll get it. So then I follow up the day after they receive it, because it comes once a month.
Yeah.
And even when people tell you, oh, I know the market's crazy. I've had now 2 people with my follow-up phone calls after the market product. I knew it was crazy. I had no idea if that crazy. When can you come over? So, you know, you think people know how crazy it is, but in some instances, they have no idea
That
how good it is for them.
And that's it, guys. Like you're in it.
Yeah.
And this market's been like this for like over a year now. So I get it. We all get stuck in this. Well, everybody knows. No, everybody knows it's a seller's market. Not everybody has any clue what that is. And I'm telling you, there are people sitting in your database that have houses worth $500,000 and they think it's worth $425,000.
Mhm.
And when they hear the real number from you, everything in their mind of, well, I'm not moving, I'm not going anywhere, is out the window. And everybody has a price. Everyone in here would sell their house for a certain amount of money. For some of you, it might be like insane, even in this market. It doesn't matter. Everyone has a price. And for a lot of these people in your database, it's time for their price and they don't know it. And I don't have, my crystal ball has been in the shop for a long time. I mean, how much longer can this go on? I know there's no true indicators that we're going to have a crash or anything. And yet, I mean, I feel like prices have gone up another 10% in the last 2 months because things like, so there is a window of opportunity for people when it comes to listings. And I don't know when it's going to close. And yet, if you're not having the conversations, it's very likely it will close for your people without them ever having the opportunity. So that's one thing. The other thing I want, oh, did you have a question as well?
Well, I just had to piggyback on what you said.
Yeah, piggyback.
About investors and opening up opportunities for them. Working with a client this week who has only owned her current home for 2 years. And so she wasn't like high on my, you know, gosh, she needs to be moving now kind of radar. And she started basically a lot of creative circular thought. And she and I are throwing ideas back and forth, but the one that I managed to overlook until my lender brought it to our attention was, because my client was saying, well, I don't know how much I can afford. I don't know, you know, I just don't have that much of a down payment and whatever. And my lender said, you own 5 properties outright, your primary and your 4 rentals. Why are you not refining them and taking that money out to take advantage of this market? And I was like, oh my gosh, why did I not think of this? Like, why didn't I provide that opportunity weeks ago?
Yeah.
Thankfully, I have a good lender who did. But anyway, just like you said, there's opportunities to be had right now.
Yeah, and again, just for like one more second on that, because I know that's not technically listings, that's a squirrel moment, and yet our job is to help people build wealth. So don't be afraid to have that conversation. And even if it doesn't fit into immediate business for you, like even if they end up going and refinancing and then buying a rental property out of area because it makes more sense for them, like who are they gonna refer their people when you help them and you didn't even get paid for it? So just keep that in mind. You gotta have these conversations. It's part of our job. And I think that as an industry, not directly to this room, I think we do a really poor job of it. So don't be afraid to have those conversations. So the next thing is to target market for your buyers, because you've all got them. I mean, unless you've literally been hiding behind a rock, like there's so many buyers that can't buy a house. So like, I know you have buyers. Why would we not target market? And that's a win-win situation, because you look amazing to your buyers. You're going to get way better loyalty out of them as they continue to have offers rejected when they know that you're doing more than just trolling the MLS every day. Like anybody can do that. The flip side of that is that what are the chances that you get a response to a letter or a door knock or whatever it is that you do an ad on Facebook and it's actually the right house for the buyer? Probably not great. And yet if they're going to respond to whatever you're doing to solicit the information, I have a spoiler alert, they're looking to sell.
Mhm.
Okay, and they only responded to you because it was going to be easy. Okay, well, I can create that too. Can you give me one day? In your market, properly situated with maybe an open house or whatever, could you get the average house under contract in a day if you had to? Okay. So that's another thing to keep in mind, that kills two birds with one stone, because you are helping your current client, your buyer clients, and then you're also getting listing opportunities. So that's a great way to do it. Geographic farming is not dead. And here's something to keep in mind. This is not the shift that we've seen before. Who's been in the market long enough to remember the dark days from like 12 years ago or whatever it was? Okay, cool. Yeah, so me too. Ugh. We're still in a shift. But we are absolutely in a shift right now. We have the most real estate agents as a country ever. And of course, Florida loves to be weird. We have the highest per capita real estate agent. Do you think they're all going to make it when the market isn't like this?
Nope.
Cool. So don't forget that you create market share in a shift. And so it would be if you're already a farming agent, if I were you, if you already have a farm, I would, whatever you can do and stay within a budget that works for you, I would pump up what I was doing. I would take that sucker over. And if you already have, I would make sure that you secure that spot, whether that's going from mailing once a quarter to once a month, or from once a month to once every 3 weeks, or whatever it is. Maybe it's doing community events. I would bolster myself. If you are not a farming agent and you have the budget to do it, which for the record, it does not need to be insanely expensive. And I don't care the price point either. Just because it's luxury doesn't mean that it needs to come scrolled and perfect. Like it's consistency is where you will win. And so I personally believe that you would be very smart to start farming right now. And if you go to do, like, to me, that's a whole other class. Here's what I'll tell you. If you're going to farm newly, like a new farm, go smaller than larger and just go crazy with them. Don't mail once a quarter. Here's my disclaimer. If you are currently mailing once a quarter, you can't take offense. You're not allowed. I didn't know you were in the room. If you're mailing once a quarter, it's not, I mean, you might as well be donating that money because somebody is out doing it. Somebody is outdoing you. That's all I'm saying. It's not that our memories don't work that well. Like we can't remember that much. Once a month is the minimum. And I would say, do the math. What if you mailed every 3 weeks? Over a year's time, you're not spending that much more money. And I promise you, nobody else is mailing that much. And the great thing is, the people in the neighborhood won't know the difference. Like they won't be like, I can't believe they're sending something every 3 weeks. You're just the name they'll remember. Now you could do like every week, except then you would be the annoying person. Every 3 weeks, it'll make no difference cognitively to them. And yet your results, like, you're going to be in their rads eventually, and you're going to be the Kleenex of their neighborhood. And they'll just think of you when they think of real estate. So farming would be a great way. And don't be afraid to go organic with the farm too. Keeping the do not call list in mind, especially if it's a new farm. What if you called the people? I mean, God, you live in an HOA mecca. It shouldn't be that hard to find contact information for people. You just got to find your one friend that lives in the neighborhood and accidentally sent you the directory. So you could call them. You are also in the door knocking is a challenge in your area. And yet for some of you, that would be an option too. Like, how can you get yourself in front of people now when the market's great and you might not get anything for it today, so that 6 months to a year to 18 months from now, you're the person taking all the business in there. So that's one way to look at things. Y'all don't forget open houses. Like, they do exist. Well, they do. That comes later. So they do exist when you're actually purposeful with what you do. And as far as getting listings, I know that you don't always realize it. A good chunk of the people that walk into your open house are absolutely interviewing you. They just won't ever tell you. They're down the street, they're thinking about it anyways, they saw the sign. Let's see what this guy's all about. Let's also see what's going on with the house, in fairness. So don't be afraid to do open houses. And the simplest way to identify a seller versus a buyer, which if open houses are a part of your world, you should be doing this anyways, is just to greet them, hey, I'm Hudson, thanks for coming in. Are you one of the neighbors? If they're one of the neighbors, they're a potential seller. They're not, again, maybe they're looking to buy an investment. Chances are they're not looking to buy the house if they already live down the street. If they're not one of the neighbors, they are probably a buyer. So it's an easy way to know. And if it were me, because I'm like, I think buyers are wonderful people and all, and I don't want them. So I want listings. So it would be, if I've got a busy open house and I know you're a potential seller, I'm not going to ignore the buyer. I am going to spend more energy on the seller. So open houses are a way to do it. Vendor partners, y'all, stop giving away your milk for free, please. And I'm not saying go cut everybody out of your life that you do business with. That if you, like for me, I'm very, I mean, this is not really compliant anyway, so whatever, the real estate police aren't in here. Like, I have given all my business to one lender for years. I don't, now if somebody asks for 3 names, I'll come up, I have like B and C people. And yet, unless they ask for more than one name, I'm like, this is who you call. Same thing for title, same thing for insurance. I don't give them 22 names to go through. I'm like, this is your person. All right. And I know for a lot of you, you're probably similar, or maybe you do give 3 names every time. And yet if you're doing a decent level of business, that's still a lot of business to people. And those people don't need to know you're giving 3 names. Why would you not solicit referrals from your vendor partners? First of all, most of them never get asked anyway. So like you'll get caught up in the, oh, I know everybody's going to ask them. No, they don't, because everybody feels just like you. So ask your vendor partners. And an easy, and look, this might not always be a seller. You might get a buyer, and yet you can tell them what your focus is. Probably make it easier for them, because most vendor partners are in an awkward situation when it comes to referring stuff out. And if you can say like, look, here's the thing, I give you all my business, you know that, right? And I think I sent you 18 deals last year. And all I'm asking is that within the next 12 months, that you send me 1 referral. And to make it easier for you, like I really want a listing referral. So if you get buyers, you can send them to your other agents. And yet I'd really love a listing from you once this year. And honestly, if you can't do that within a year, I'll give you a year. If you can't do that, then I'm probably going to have to go find another person. And I'm sure you can understand that. They don't want to lose your business. And they're also a business person. So you don't have to feel bad about asking that way. They should be helping support your business. And I will say, like, speaking from, I told you, no theory in here, that the lender that I do business with sends us at least 2 deals a year. And over the span of years, I mean, I don't even know how many, I've done 4 personal deals with her. So because I treat her right and she treats me right in return, we set up that expectation though. So don't be afraid to go after your vendor partners. I mean, you have at least 5 or 6 that, because they don't all have to be title or lender. There's people you do business with on a regular basis, your pest control person, your lawn person, the people that you refer out. Don't be afraid to ask for 1 deal a year or whatever you want to ask for. 1 is definitely doable. All right, so that's that. And then I also, look, don't forget about FSBOs and expireds. I wouldn't base your business solely on that right now. And yet FSBOs still sell less than open market properties on average. They are still leaving money on the table. Now they're having an easier time and they're getting more money than they used to in the past. They're still leaving money on the table. And how smooth are all your transactions super smooth lately? Everything's perfect? Okay, cool. No. FSBOs don't understand that. And I don't care if they've sold 22 houses and they're like, they don't know this market unless they just did it the week before. So don't be afraid to go after FSBOs. And if I were pounding the pavement at the level I used to, I would be calling FSBOs left and right, and I would be offering to do like a 3-day listing agreement with them. What do you have to lose? A little bit of money for photography, except as long as they don't price it completely insane, you're going to sell it. Unless it's a $10 million house, or unless it's maybe a shack falling down, You can sell anything in 3 days right now. You list it Friday morning, you have open house Saturday and Sunday, you have 82 offers. So I wouldn't put all my eggs in that basket. And yeah, I wouldn't be afraid to go after FSBOs, especially if they're in a target area of yours. And you have nothing to lose in those situations. Paint the picture. Tell them what they don't know so that they understand why they actually need a realtor behind them. And with expired, I'll come right to you. And with expireds, same deal. Like, first of all, there are expireds every single day still. Now, there's not many. And I can only imagine what happened when they're expired in this market. And yet, why not have the conversation? Because there's a lot less agents going after them right now. And this is more tedious. So I would say this is more for somebody who's, maybe you're really having a slump month, or maybe you're a brand new agent and you've got the time. Like, go 2 or 3 years back to expireds. And it will be a lot of work because most of them will have relisted and sold. And yet you can find some that never sold. And you've just got to be the person that's able to get in front of them and share, hey, you know, you wanted 600 grand 2 years ago and you couldn't get it. I can get you 7. Can we meet? So don't, again, I have it at the bottom of the list for a reason, and yet don't be afraid to go after that. Yes. Oh, do you have a question as well?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I have an itch on my face.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope it's better. All right.
A quick statistic of all the real estate litigation cases, something around 85% of them are for sale by owner transactions. So that's a scary fact. And right now, when buyers are hyper emotional about getting a deal, when something goes wrong, it's more likely to go into litigation, and that's a good statistic. Look up the actual number. It's something around 85% of all those litigations are for sale by owners.
I used to
That
say
alone
that
is worth the protection.
to get the appointment. I'd ask them, how much E&O insurance do you carry currently?
Huge, right on top of that.
Yeah. Well, you can keep in mind. Go ahead.
So the for sale by owner, I would ask them how much E&O insurance they carry currently. And then they'd be like, well, what's that? And then I'd say, we're in a very litigious society and
a very litigious profession.
right, exactly. And I'm covered if anything bad, happens in the transaction, are you? Because all the money you're gonna save by not hiring me, you're gonna spend in a lawsuit.
Yeah. Yes.
I had my husband's coworker who sort of said, would you list my house? And then we talked about it. She said, no, we're just gonna be by owner. And I said, okay. So here's a good closing agent. I promise you it'll be worth your money, to use it. She went through the process and it's like, I will never do that again. I will use you. I will thank you for helping me through the process, but I would never, ever do that again. And so it's almost kind of worth it sometimes to let them fail and go through it. And then for our profession, they'll never, they'll never want to do it again.
Well, and don't be so. I'm an opportunity person, so don't be afraid. Like in that case, so you help them and you help them for free. Now I know you didn't do a ton. No, you're good. Like what you did, I think is very fair. I also think it would have been fair. Like, hey, you know what? I appreciate that, and I'm glad that the closer worked out for you. And honestly, like, if you could do me a favor, I would love if the next person that you find that's looking to sell their house, would you be willing to connect me to them? They'll say yes. And then you just have to keep in touch with them because they'll forget a few weeks later, and then you keep in touch. Did you, or you were just shifting? Okay. Anybody else? So yeah, don't be afraid of that stuff. All right. So those are ways to get leads. Like, yay, we need leads. We don't have anything without leads. I don't know if you're aware of that. Who here actually lead generates? Off topic, kind of on. Oh my God, we have either a perfect room or maybe not everybody's on. You got to get the lead to have a business. Please don't ever forget that, because it will not always be the crazy market that it is. All right, so you've got the lead. Now, how do you get the appointment? Who here ever struggles with that? Like how to close, or whoever struggles with that? Nobody? You're all natural born closers? Yeah. No, it's. I get it. I think most of us probably do on any given day. So I'm very sarcastic, and yet I do mean what I type. Just ask for it. I think that we get used to, we all fall into the trap that most new agents fall into. And of course we look at them, we're like, they're crazy. And yet we all fall into it again from time to time in this business. Like, you have to ask for the business. It's not just going to show up. Now, that doesn't mean, again, so you call your person in your database and you give them a CMA You don't have to directly go, okay, can I sell your house? Like, no, you take clues though. Wow, that's a lot. Like, okay, great. Well, I'm glad that you're impressed with it. Like, have you thought about moving? Have you thought about investing? Like, you have to ask questions and go there. And if it's time to ask for an appointment, then you have to ask for it. Like, it is that simple, and you need to remember that. Because again, I'm sure nobody in this room, and yet I watch agents a lot because I travel and teach them and coach them. And they have these great conversations, and then they're just like, okay, well, I'll talk to you soon. Like, no, close. Like, your job is to close for the appointment. It's not your client or potential client's job. Go for No. Who's ever actually read the book Go for No? It's a book. It's a fabulous, if you struggle at all with closing or lead generating, just from a mindset perspective, it's a fabulous book to read. It's cheap and it's a quick read. It's very simple. Get okay with being told no. Understand that all no's are not actual no's. So you go, if they exist anymore, you go to like a department store, you walk into Macy's or Nordstrom, and you walk in, and what's the first question? Can I help you? And what do you say every single time? No, I'm just looking. Except most of the time, did you walk in there actually looking for something specific? Cool, but we're so trained to say, nope. And then if it's at a Nordstrom where they're really trained well, they're gonna continue to dialogue with you and ask questions. And eventually they're gonna take you to find that exact thing that you came in for all along. They had to break down the walls. Your clients are no different than you. We have been trained to say, nope, just looking. Nope, just wanted the information. Leave me alone, I'm good. Like, they don't mean it. So you have to continue to ask questions. You have to have more than one way to ask for an appointment. So my rule of thumb was always that you ask 5 times. I mean, unless they are screaming at you, you ask 5 times. And if you're dealing with database primarily, they're not screaming at you. So you ask 5 times, you just don't ask literally 5 times in a row. That's weird. Like, they tell you no, you start to ask questions or give another reason why they should, and then you close again. So don't be afraid to get more than one no. And if you ask 5 times and it's still a no, don't feel like you failed, because you probably in the past would have only asked the one time and then moved on. So go for no, make it fun. I mean, seriously, like we do have to remember to also insert some fun back into our lives in this business, because it's like a really rough market. I think we are producing a lot of very haggard agents. Like, it's a tough time. So don't be afraid to have fun with it. Like, get as many no's as you can. Like, it's you have nothing to lose. So don't be afraid to close. Don't give all your information out up front. All right, like, so CMA, like we talked about that. That is a lot of information to straight up give them essentially a price. So if they start asking about like, well, what if I did list it? Where would I go? Or what if I did list it? What would you charge? Like, be careful answering those things, because the more that you answer in a conversation with somebody, the way less likely you are to get the appointment. You know, so a few of you raise your hands, you used to work expires. If they asked you what you charged and you told them, no matter what the answer was, unless you told them it was like free or 1%, no matter what the answer was, you weren't getting that appointment. Am I right?
Right.
Cool. Because that's what they want. That's all they cared about after being angry at realtors. And so if you told them anything but free to 1% total, like, then they didn't need to meet with you. So you gotta be open to saying things like, you know what, that is a super great question, and that's exactly why we should meet. You know, what time's better, tomorrow at 3 or Friday at 4? You know, you're concerned about commission. Gosh, I'd be concerned about it too if I was selling my house right now. It's really important. It's the first thing we'll talk about. Would tomorrow at 3 or Friday at 4 be better? So you don't have to answer. You can't ignore questions like a weirdo. Like, you can't pretend you didn't hear them, and yet you don't have to answer them in that moment just because they were asked. You're allowed to be a professional. Your doctor would not diagnose you over. Actually, nowadays they kind of would. That's whatever. In general, your doctor would not diagnose you over the phone. So you're okay. So don't give everything away. Give them a reason to meet with you. Y'all are smart, like, you're all interacting with me, you're all smart, you're all educated, you're all capable realtors. They should meet with you, all right? And then kind of, this is maybe a little bit counterintuitive to the two, and yet don't also be super pressury. Like, get the appointment and also make it okay. Like, hey, I get it. You're not sure if you're gonna sell right now. You're not wasting my time. Like, let's just sit and talk. I'm here to provide service and help. You know, don't be super aggressive like Alec Baldwin and like, don't like, you don't have to be super aggressive. Just get the appointment and provide information. If you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want. You go on enough listing appointments and they don't all work out, and yet they didn't work out because it just wasn't the right time for these people to list. And then their neighbor is talking to them 2 days later and like, you know, we think we're gonna sell the house. They're gonna send them to you. Like, you just gotta take care of people. So take the pressure off. And then in all things, and yet specifically with listings, like, have a value proposition. Don't overthink that, because it doesn't need to be some grandiose thing that makes them just like, oh, wow. Like, it just, there's 82,000 realtors within half a mile right now. Like, you literally cannot stumble without hitting another realtor. So why are they meeting with you? You have to have some sort of hook, and it doesn't have to be big, because most other realtors have never even thought of that. And we go, what's the value proposition? So you just need to have something. It doesn't need to be amazing or powerful. You just need something. All right. So you close. You asked so many times, they finally said yes, and you've got the appointment. So now what are you going to do? I know you've heard this 1,000 times, so don't tune me out. Pre-qualify the appointment.
Mhm.
If you go on a listing appointment, is your intention to take it?
Yes.
3 of you, perfect, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so pre-qualify the appointment. The questions that you ask when you take the time to pre-qualify give you everything that you need to know in order to go in and close every time. Unless they literally cannot sell, like if it's an objection type thing, you find that out when you pre-qualify. If they're interviewing more than one agent, you want to know that. You want to know who they're interviewing. You want to be able to prepare and show them why you are the better choice. So pre-qualify, and I don't want to like turn this into an Ignite class. You pre-qualify everyone though. Your best friend, your mother, your cousin, your neighbor, you pre-qualify. Now, you might not be as aggressive and you might not ask questions that you already know the answer to, and yet you pre-qualify. First of all, you need to come across as a professional more to the people you already know than to strangers. Because your friends and your family remember that time in college that you did something real dumb. So like you have to show that you are a professional, and on the flip side, you can't afford to go into things blind. As somebody who runs a data, 206 transactions, 97% were referral of some sort, whether it was from a past client, a sphere, and we do a lot of agent referrals. Like they came to us based off referral basis. If I talk to somebody and you're interested in selling, and yet I find out in the pre-qualification process that it's really 6 months to a year out, and yet you really want to meet now, I'll still meet with you. Call me crazy, I'll still meet with you. And yet I go into it, I'm gonna allot less time. I'm not gonna count it as my numbers. I'm not gonna count it as a listing I didn't take because it wasn't a true listing appointment. And yet this is somebody from my database or from a person within my database. I'm going to give them service. And yet I wanna know that going into it. So don't be afraid to pre-qualify all appointments, specifically listing appointments. Those listings are imperative to your well-being in this business, so go in prepared to get them. Do a pre-list package. Y'all, who actually, don't lie, don't be cute. Like, who actually uses a pre-list package of some sort? So, okay. Room for improvements, great. So, it's so easy to create one. And once you've done it once, you really don't need to do almost anything on an individual basis other than, so I don't know what people in here do. We send ours out, we used to like hand deliver them, and then we got like busy, and that's just not fun. So we do, we send them electronically. We use a program called FlipSnack. FlipSnack is free. So we created a PDF. It turns it into like a pretty magazine where they turn the cover on they turn the pages on their computer. But like we just created it once, and then my assistant has a template email. If you don't have an assistant, doesn't matter. You can have a template email, and all you do is you copy it, put it in there, add their names, add the time of the appointment, because I always have that in there. You stand out as a professional. And I'm curious from like the 2 or 3 people that use them in the room, like why do you, other than looking professional, why do you send pre-list packages? Yes, I'll hear from both. We'll go back there and then up here.
Cut your appointment down, the appointment time down, so you get in and you're just really talking about what they want, not going over your marketing material. I learned that from someone else. And another website to use though for your flipping is
Yeah.
ISSU, I think ISU.
Okay. Isu.
ISU.
Okay. Okay, so I love that. So you cut down the time, which is huge, because again, we like buying our time back. Were you gonna say the same thing? Is that,
Yeah.
okay, okay, and then, yes,
Well, I think I learned from Kelly during one of the nights was that the focus comes off of you and it goes on to them. The focus,
well, that's true too. That's true too. And so here,
you can give your accolades and your.
there's no right or wrong. Well, see, that's what I was gonna say. So the pre-list package can be primarily about you and your team and your service and what you do. So that when you get to the appointment, it's all about them and not about you. That's one reason. What nobody said and not only does it cut down your appointment time, you walk in, we have a pretty pre-list package, and yet in the email, we attach disclosures. When you walk in and the disclosures are printed and filled out, you just bought a lot of time back because they're ready to sign. So now your listing appointment that you prepared, that you worked so hard on, it goes right out the window, and it's like, hey, I see that you filled all this out. I just want to see, do you have any questions, or are you ready to go over the paperwork? And 9 times out of 10, if they filled out those disclosures, the answer is, yeah, I'm ready to go over the paperwork. So there's great reasons to do that, and it really does, though. It cuts down your appointment time. Because who goes on listing appointments and is there for like 2 hours? It's a safe space. I won't judge you. Okay, we know it's true. We know it happens. Look, 40, 45 minutes and you're out when you send a pre-list packet because you don't have that much to go over. All right. So create it, and you know what? Start like a pre-list package. So who is sitting here, who will be honest, who is sitting here and like, well, what do you do? What is a pre-list packet? What do I put in it? Okay, multiple people. Great. Okay, so you're gonna have, first of all, you have to have like a pretty cover because it should look like something impressive. That's easy though. All right. You're going to have a number of things. You're going to have a base outline of your marketing plan, not detailed because then they don't need to meet with you. You're going to have just a general overview of what you do to earn your money. You're going to have any type of accolades. So what awards have you won? And if you're newer, your office has won awards. You have to remember that when you are part of a brokerage, especially a large successful one, their numbers are your numbers. And that's not a lie. That's not you misrepresenting. That's how it works. So, you know, what accolades have you received? What are your numbers? It's a great, and where are you strong? So if you have awesome days on market and awesome sales price versus list price, and also half of your listings expire, you're not going to share that part. You're going to share the good part. So you're only going to share the things that make you look strong. All right, so that's going to be in there. Client testimonials. Please, 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 please. And if you're brand new, go to the people that know you, like you, and trust you already and ask them. They don't have to lie and say, I bought 123 Main Street. Hey, you know, Jane Doe is the best realtor because blah, 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 blah. Like, none of you go, you probably don't even go to new restaurants without checking reviews. You're not booking travel, you're not buying a car, you're not ordering a couch without checking reviews. Your clients are the same way when you're about to make a lot of money on their biggest investment that they own. So you should have testimonials in there as well. What are any, from the people that use them, what are any other things that I didn't already say that you put in your pre-list package?
A little personal information about us.
Yeah, like maybe who you are and why you do what you do, and maybe your vision statement or whatever. Yeah, that's great. What else? Anything else? All right. And I think that's it. Like ours is honestly like 8 pages, and a lot of that is pictures. Like it's not super crazy, because if you put too much in there, they're going to lose interest anyway. So it doesn't really matter. And I just want to revisit, like this is my opinion, put the disclosures in there, put them as an attachment, or if you want to hand deliver, there's nothing wrong with that. I like time. So have disclosures in there, because even if they don't fill them out, if they even look at them, they already know what their questions are. And Do I have any other high Ds in the room? It's a real estate office, I know I do. Okay, like my most painful thing, like back when I was really clipping and before I was coaching, I would take about 10 listings a month. And sitting there and going through the disclosures with somebody who was detail oriented was literally my personal hell. And so when they had them beforehand, even if they didn't fill them out, we could still knock them out much quicker because their questions were ready. And again, I'm all about buying time back. So confirm the appointment, except here's how you don't do it. Hey, hey, Mr. Potential Seller, I wanted to check with you and make sure, are we still good to meet tomorrow at 9 a.m.? No, because you've already planted doubt. Hey, you know what? It's Hudson. I'm so excited to meet you tomorrow. I'm just reminding you. And in fact, I would maybe text this or hope I got voicemail. Hey, I just wanted to remind you of our appointment tomorrow at 9. And you know what? I'm so excited and I have cleared my schedule tomorrow morning to meet with you. So I can't wait to meet you. You are business people, right? Like, do any of you, I know there might be, any of you agents, do you have a magical salary? Did I miss the paperwork on that? Okay. So you put a little guilt on them. It doesn't have to come across as guilt, and yet let them know, like, I cleared all my other clients so that I could meet with you today. It's gonna give you a much higher probability that they show up and answer the door when you arrive. All right, so confirm, don't ask though. Tell them you're coming. You're just reminding them that you'll be there. And if there is an issue, they'll still tell you, and yet you don't plant the seed for that. And then I already kind of went into this, like, seriously, just plant the little guilt seed. It's okay. It worked on you when you were a kid. So don't be afraid to plant a little guilt. I want to stop before we go any longer or any further and just ask, does anybody have any questions about anything we've covered? And there are no bad questions. It doesn't exist. Yes.
A little bit different. So I'll cold call and I have a schedule an appointment with somebody. But then I feel like I'm wasting my time because they're not ready. It's all cold. Like, so it's a future business, but not today. So I'm going to these appointments and they like to meet with me, but then they get all this information and they're not ready for a long time.
How long have you been doing that?
Well, I was before in Maryland.
Okay.
And I felt like I kept generating these leads that were huge, and then I left. I moved.
Well, that was smart. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Maryland. It's just really cold. So I guess my question is, I don't think that's, well, it's not going to give you now business. And if you have good follow-up, that doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah, but it's for future.
here's what I think we all, again, something that we all need, especially we are in an instant gratification society and we are in an instant gratification market for sure. Some of you maybe are about to retire. For most of us, in a year or 2 years or 5 years, we're still planning to be in business. So I don't think long-term business is bad. I just think that to me, you are wasting your time if you're not following up.
I still have people from Maryland calling me, like, asking me what carpet is the best. You know, like,
Here-
it seems like I'm.
Not to get overly specific, here's what I would say. If you have somebody who's a little ways out and it's stuff like that, like they're gonna fix up the house. I was always a fan of just getting the listing and saying, look, I want to help you through everything. I am hands-on. I've got connections all over town. So let's go ahead and execute the contract and we can hold it off the market as long as you want. There's just a form for that. Or, in Florida, you can do the broker exclusive and then you don't have to worry about MLS exclusion. And even then there's a great, hey, I know you want to do this work. And yet if you sign your listing with me and it's a broker exclusive, like I can still talk about your house and tell the people in my market center or in my broker, they won't know what market center is, in my brokerage. And in the meantime, I'll help you get everything ready and then we'll just change the listing. Like I would do what I could to get it then, even if they weren't ready then. I used to sign a lot of listings way before they were ready.
What's the time you can give them to, or?
And I don't really think there's a limit, honestly.
2 months, or?
You can take a listing for as long as you want, as long as you could sign a 2-year listing if they agree to it. Like not a broker, and yet I've been around the block a few times. As far as I know, I don't think there's any limit. The only thing where things get sticky in Florida, because I'm just up the road from you, is the clear cooperation. And you can get around that by excluding from the MLS. I don't know if there's a limit on that. I know you can take a broker exclusive listing though, and then you don't have to put it anywhere. You just can't market it outside of your brokerage. So I'm just saying there would be ways around it. Now, I would make sure you got more information about the technical side of that because, so I also used to be a team leader. Be nice to her. It's a tough job. And like I used to joke, I actually had a sign that said not your broker, because when they came to me with broker questions, I'm like, I'm a rule breaker. You don't want that. So find out more. And yet I'm pretty certain that there's no limit, especially if it's a broker exclusive. And it's just once they put pen to paper, there's something very sidebar. I always use buyer broker agreements. I never have and probably never would enforce them. Like if people are gonna go buy with somebody else every once in a while, I'm not interested, no right or wrong, I'm not interested to chase those people because I'll just go find somebody new. I just knew that when they signed that paper, they had a much better chance of truly committing to me and sticking it through. And I would say the same thing, if you've got somebody who's got 4 to 6 months of work, there's no reason you couldn't still take that listing, market it behind. They would probably love to sell it before the work is done if they didn't have to do the work. And then in the meantime, once the work is done, they're still going to use you. Now you didn't completely give everything away for free because they already signed one contract. They'll probably sign the new contract when you're ready to put it in the MLS. So I just, specific to your question, that's what I would say. I don't think there's anything wrong with future business as long as you're keeping track of it and not losing out, because there will be another realtor that comes along. And if they keep in better touch, then you're in trouble. Yes.
So theoretically for a friend, if you take a listing ahead of the house being ready, or you take a listing and they thought they were going to, like, photos are taken, it's going on MLS this week, and then they decide not to for whatever reason. Do you have any suggestions on how to try to bring them back to actually getting it on the market? Say you signed that agreement last May and they have decided, totally hypothetical, and that they are
Okay.
and that they've decided that they can't list their house until they find the perfect home, which is now not in this area, and whatever. Do you have any great words for, like, let's move this along, people?
So the tough thing about that is that it depends on motivation.
Yeah.
The questions need to be around the motivation, which I don't know this theoretical situation. And yet the questions need to be, you need to remind them why they were doing what they're doing. The other thing, and this is not what you directly asked, and yet who here has people that would list, but they're like, where am I gonna go? Okay, so at least today, I don't know how long it'll last. Again, like, you have to remind these people that they are in the driver's seat. So on the listing side, you have all the control in the world. You can get a rent back. You can get a rent back probably as long as you wanted to. You get a super long close. So that's one of those things. I actually think that's a fairly easy objection. No offense to people who are struggling with it. I'm sure I did in the beginning. Like, they have all the power. I mean, I just moved at the end of last year, rather unplanned. Literally, my house wasn't even on the market. So apparently I can negotiate because I got the other one under contract contingent. And like, we got a rent back for free. I mean, and we have a line of people ready to do it. So, don't forget that you do have solutions. So, I don't know where I'm going to go. Great. You know what? First of all, I've never left anyone homeless. So you're going to be good. Second of all, we'll just negotiate a rent back. And, and again, if they've got a good enough property, we can negotiate it for free. So you stay, we'll do like a 45, 60-day close, and then we'll let you stay for another couple of months. Would that help you? We'll find you a home in that time. If I have to go door to door, like we'll find you the home in that amount of time. It's a great way to get them off the fence. And you're telling them the truth. They do have the power in this market. And there will be a time where they don't. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I would just like to say something about the rent back. So I had a seller, this was last May.
Okay.
And
Wow, May is popular.
it's a condo, and we did a 60-day lease back. That was the
Okay.
max that we could do because the buyer was financed.
Yeah.
And it was starting to get really, really hard finding a place. and their max budget was $350. They ended up buying something at $407.
Okay.
And now, today, I still get that objection, but I find today it's even more difficult to find buyers a place. So I'm kind of, like, I have 3 sellers right now. One, the only way they'll list is with an addendum B, which, what are my chances of getting that through?
Yeah.
Another one, she wants to be in a particular plan because she only wants to go to a particular hospital if she gets sick.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
And I have another one, same way, she only wants to be in a particular area. And so I've cold called, I've done everything that I possibly can to try to find something in these areas, and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
So what would you suggest?
Well, so a couple things. So first of all, and again, not knowing the specifics, just going off the general objection that you're getting. Okay, so they're looking for the right place. They won't sell until they have the right place, except the right place is probably not going to take their contingent offer. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, how bad do you want to move? I mean, because at a certain point, not every listing lead will turn out. Like, we need to understand that. So like, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, how bad do you want to move? Really bad? Great. Okay, well, this is what we really need to do. We have to get your home on the market. Here are the fail safes that we can put into place so that you aren't left homeless. Or, you know, what are the other options? Are they in a position to rent for a certain amount of time? Are they in a position, do they have a family member that lives nearby? I mean, because it always comes down to motivation. If they really want to move, there's a way to do it. You've just got to ask enough questions and give them enough different ideas to find one that would work for them. And then if you do all that and they're still not interested, then that's probably somebody that you come back to later. I mean, because that's the case too. I think this is something I see a lot. I'm not saying this is you, that we get stuck on this one lead or these 3 leads or these 10 leads that want to sell or want to buy, and yet they're not willing to do, like, one of the things we talk about in bold is being ready, willing, and able, not able, ready, and willing. Like, they have to be willing to do what it takes in this market. And if you've given all the different ways that it can be done, that's more comfortable for them, and they're still not willing to do it, I wouldn't say like, next, delete the, like, you still stay in touch with them. And yet at a certain point, you got to go find the next listing opportunity. Because for everybody who's so stubborn that they won't flex, like, there's obviously lots of sales. Like, there's plenty of other people that'll do it. But ultimately, it's motivation. How bad do they want to move? And I think asking bold questions like that, even though some people might, maybe they might take them aback in the moment, like, hey, I'm coming from a place of wanting to help you, and yet we are in a crazy market. How bad do you want to move? Like, here are the different ways that we can do it. And if they say none of them work, well, then I think it's okay to kind of do like the take back, like we would call it like the take back close. Like, okay, well, maybe now isn't the right time for you to move. And I certainly don't want to pressure you if it's not. And in that moment, they'll either say, yeah, you're right, or no, I still want to move. And then you go back to your options. Like, it's just, it's a somewhat painful dialogue that you just have to continue to have. And yet, again, not directed at you, directed at really anybody in the room. Like, don't get stuck on any 1, 2, 3, however many leads that are running you around like a hamster wheel. Like, at a certain point, you can continue to stay in touch with them and work them and not count them as listings and go find other people, if that makes sense. I answer you at all. I don't have the magic pill, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't have the magic answer either, and.
I wish one of us did. It would be a lot easier.
Totally stuck on them, but I still want to help them. The couple with the addendum V, they're 86 and 89, and they're just looking to downsize. They have a beautiful home. I know I can sell it in 2 days, but I cannot get them to put it on the market without finding a place first.
Yeah.
And once we find a place, there's no way I'm gonna get a seller to sell it. An addendum V in this market.
Well, and in fairness, I will say that's not necessarily true, probably true. I mean, my mother works on my team as well, and she just took a listing and the sellers took a contingent deal. They like to deal the best, they like the people the best. Like, not everybody is completely money hungry all the time. Like, they felt it was the right move. So and again, I just personally moved, and I got somebody to accept my contingent offer, and my house wasn't even on the market. So it does exist, and I get what you're saying. The probability is low. So, but yeah, I mean, come back to motivation and ask them those questions. Like, here are the different ways that we can accomplish what you want to accomplish. Are you willing to do any of them? And there's your answer. And if they're not, again, just stay in touch, because motivation changes daily.
Right.
Especially at that type of
That
age.
know.
I was gonna say, all of a sudden, they're gonna stick to their guns, and then, and I don't, this sounds awful, somebody gets sick or somebody falls or something, and now the circumstances change. No, put it on the market, we gotta go. So you stay in touch with those people. So, awesome. All right. So let's talk about you're at the appointment. Who here, I did this for a long time, so you're in good company. Who here totally wings their listing appointments? God, I know there's way more of you. Okay. And like, I was really good at it. I'm a really good winger. Like I could go in and I could usually still get the listing. And it honestly wasn't until like 3 or 4 years ago that I finally bought in and started using a listing presentation. Now, I'm not sitting there reading word for word, like it's not like that. And yet, I don't care how good at this you are, you have off days, you get thrown by certain questions, your energy is different every day. It has been so helpful to follow something. So the first thing I'll say, so that's not even the first thing. When you're headed to the appointment, don't, just like maybe you don't need to check your emails and your texts for like the half hour before. Because like you don't really need to get maybe not the best news right before you walk into a listing appointment. I know it sounds silly and trivial, and it's not. Like, what's the music you're listening to on the way there? Or do you have somebody who believes in you at like a crazy level, and maybe you need to have a quick 5-minute conversation with them? Because I will tell you, I'm 15, 16 years in, I sell a lot of houses, and depending on the person in the house, I still get nervous. Mm-hmm. So are you setting yourself up for success right before the appointment? Are you walking in on and ready? And I don't, like, you should be real and you should be professional. Like, are you like actor ready? Like, are you like, would you get the job if they were casting for a real estate show? Like, you've got to be ready and on, and that you got to watch what you let into your world in the little bit before when you're doing that. So, get ready. That it starts the minute you get to that door. And I will say you only get one chance at a first impression, right? Yeah. That is only part true in my opinion, because if you're going to like a friend or a family member and they've never worked with you in a professional capacity, that is a new first impression. Are you showing up in your flip-flops because it's your friend? Or did you show up professionally? Is it what's up, bro, at the door? Like seriously, so it's not, you do get to make a second first impression when it's somebody that you already know. Literally, what you do at that door, because who's ever had it? Like, think of buyers in houses. How many times have you taken a buyer to a house and you're not even inside and they've already written it off? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. It's no different with you when you go on a listing appointment. So be professional at the door. It's a weird time. I would ask if they shake hands, and yet I would be ready to shake hands and give a firm handshake. Knock on the door and take a step back so you're not in their face when they open the door. I know that all seems trivial. It matters though. Show up professional. I personally believe, show up with a clipboard. And it sounds menial, except you're going to take a tour of the house. You need to write things down, even if you're just scribbling, because they need to see you writing things down. And it's just, you walk in looking professional. They know who you are. They don't think you're some random salesman. So go show up, be professional from the minute you walk in the door. Ask if you should take your shoes off or not. People ask me that all the time when they come to my house. I'm like, I don't care. There are people that are real, you will lose right away just by not asking that question. So do that stuff when you get there. I personally, an agent that's in your area, Tony Zargami, is a good friend of mine, and she came and taught at my office up there when I was team leader. And she shared this one thing that I thought was brilliant. And it doesn't work for everybody, because if you don't have a family, I wouldn't be creepy and go get a photo frame and take someone's family. And yet she just it's not like she ever did anything with it. She had a picture of her family on the back of the clipboard. It was like a plastic one, so it's kind of just in it. I thought, and she said that she would get questions about her family. And I think inherently, and again, this doesn't apply to you, sorry, we'll be off this in a second. I just thought it was so smart, because if you if that means anything to you, instantly now she's won points without having to say a word. So I thought that was really impressive. It's just small details matter. Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask one more?
You can ask whatever you
I
want.
think that you might relate to this, except for the fact that I think sometimes because I'm a woman, it's a little bit different. You have 6 kids.
Yep.
I have 9.
You're crazier than me. Congratulations.
He's crazier. He actually stuck around for it. So.
You got me so tired.
So I have had multiple times when people, people straight up ask me, do you have kids? How many do you have? Crap, do I really answer this? Yeah, and there have been times when people have straight up said to me, oh, you don't have time then for my listing. Go home and take care of your kids. And I don't know if that's because I'm a mama and it's different for daddies, but
So
no, I'm serious though.
No,
No one's ever said that to him. They go, wow, that's amazing, or your wife must be busy, or like they assume that he's good professionally. They assume I need to get home and get barefoot in the kitchen, yeah.
So, you know what?
Like, yeah, picture my dogs.
You know what, Mr. Seller, I can appreciate why you would think that. And yet, first of all, this listing is actually how I take care of my family. And if I can manage 9 kids and still run a professional career, I promise you I'm gonna take great care of your listing. Let's go inside. Like, don't be afraid to shut it down and not in a way like, how dare you, like flip it around. Like, and truthfully, like think about, like, I mean, if you can manage to have 9 children and you both are sitting here right now, I'm pretty sure that you can do an amazing job at anybody's listing. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. And I think you'll earn respect when you do.
What I've said in the past, I just still feel like that, like, I feel like I've learned to just like hide it and not mention it when I go out to.
Well, I don't think you have to mention it. That's your choice. I
don't hide it here.
I also think that, to me, that's, if you have 9 kids and you showed up at my door and you were on time, I'm already impressed. That's me. Yes.
Yeah, I was the same way.
Do you also have 9 kids?
No.
Okay, okay.
And it's so infuriating, and you go to that in the appointment, and be like, would you say that to male? But I had someone tell me to just say that you have a nanny that takes care of those kids, so that you can run your business, so. Yeah.
Well, and that's, you don't, like, yeah, like, you know what, I've got a great leverage system in place.
Support system.
Yeah, I mean, like, I have a nanny, it's my mother-in-law. She's a really great rate. Still, like, so, yeah, no, I appreciate you asking it. I think you can flip it around to show how strong you are and how organized you are. You gotta be organized to have 9 kids. Woo! Y'all need to get cable. Okay, so get ready for showtime. I'm kidding, it's joke. All right.
List of comments.
I know, it's not even funny, I get it. All right. So start, it's like start at the door. Make sure that your first impression or your second first impression is strong. That's all, and whatever that looks like for you, it doesn't really matter. I'm just saying, make sure that you're intentional with it and you're not just like, and like, just be ready. I would encourage you to follow a listing presentation. This is not a KW command class. Again, you're welcome. However, I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't use anything else in command, the listing presentation that's in there is fantastic, and I am not paid to say that. That thing is designed, and I have proven this right in the bold room. A brand new agent could customize it first so that it looks right, and walk into their first listing appointment and walk out with the listing agreement, because it tells you everything to say without being a script, because it's pretty and it's visual. It just has the questions that you should ask, and it's very centered around the client. So whether you use that or not, and yet if you don't have anything, I would at least start with that for ideas. Have something that you're following so that you don't get the like, so have something that you follow, and don't be so overly professional that you forget to be a human. There is a fine line. You're supposed to be you. You're supposed to build rapport. You should have your presentation that you're going to give unless they're ready to sign in the moment. And yet you should be able to give it in more than one way based off personality. You know that you're going to have to speed it up if you have somebody who doesn't care about the details. For example, I'm telling you, don't remodel anything right now. We're in a full remodel. The timing is really dumb. And so we're going through this and we've never done this level of work on a house before. And this lovely woman designing our kitchen, who's gonna give us the coolest kitchen ever. I mean, I just keep zoning out every time she talks. And we have a designer that's helping us and she's also a friend and she keeps looking at her, they've worked together before and she can get away with, she's like, too many words, like just, what's the end? Like, they don't care. Like, they saw the picture, they think it's pretty. Like, so make sure that you have more than one way to deliver the same message so that you keep a standard up and yet you can cater to any different type of personality. I'm a big proponent, and like when I first started coaching Bold, this isn't what you were taught, now we're allowed to say it. Like, don't tour the house alone. And if you're doing that, no judgment, I just don't. Like, that's your time to build rapport. Ask them to take you on a tour. Let them tell you how great the yellow carpets are. Like, just let them take their time. It'll be painful if you're a high D, so just like take a Xanax, you're fine. Don't really do that unless you take it as a prescription. And yet, go, like, let them give you the tour. You'll find out so much about them. It's a great time to build rapport. And you're gonna take notes the whole way, even if you're writing down, oh my God, they're still talking. Because they will, all they'll see is that you care. And that you're detail oriented and that this is not just one other house to go visit for them. So take the tour and let them lead it. Make everything about them. Your opportunity to make it about you was when you had the pre-list package. So make it about them, their motivation, their needs, why they should work with you. Make it about them the entire time. This goes back, like, stay on, you should have a plan as to what you're going to talk about while staying flexible. Don't ignore the cues. If they're ready to sign, then you skip ahead. Do you have any more questions before we go over the paperwork? Well, whoa, we didn't even talk about commission yet. Okay, well, let's talk about that. Or it might be, no, I don't, let's go. Like, so and that's another reason to have a listing presentation that you follow so that you're not worried about what to say next. You'll be able to listen more actively so that you can be like, oh man, they are like really begging me to close them right now, so let's do it. So don't be afraid to do that and then close. And this is how I always was. I just went straight into the paperwork. If I thought it was time, then great. Well, if I got to the end of the caveat, if I got to the end of the presentation, it'd be like, great. All right, well, let's go to the contract. And I would just start explaining it unless they went, whoa, whoa, whoa. A lot of times they didn't though. And yet if you're like, so what do you think? Like, then you give them a reason.
Right.
Now, if it's somewhere in the middle of the presentation and you feel that maybe it's time to close, then I wouldn't necessarily just whip the contract out. I would say like, hey, well, you know what, at this point, are there any other questions or would you like to go over the contract? But either way, like, go directly into it. Don't hem and haw and be like, well, what are you thinking? Or are you meeting with anybody else? Or like, no, like, just go. Just go. All right, y'all know that you should have objection handlers ready. That's not this class. Most objections are really not that hard to handle. You just need to practice them once in a while. And the good news is, look at how many people show up to the office. You could do it here. So close and go straight into the paperwork. Now, okay, so you're gonna get the listing. That's exciting. We've got the listing. Now, would you like to get another? Cool. Or do you still work with buyers, most of you as well? And like, you still want them, you just want more listings, right? Anybody? A couple of you? Great. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Stop getting so excited when you take a listing because you worked so hard to get the listing that you go ahead and be like, okay, well, I got my phone right here. I'll take pictures. What are on the market tonight? Like, stop doing that. You decide how you handle listings and stick to it unless there's a true reason to not stick to it. There's a couple things there. First of all, this market will not be forever. There will be a time where you will actually have to sell your listings rather than just hit active on the MLS. So you need to have a standard. For me in this market, we list Thursday night. It goes active Thursday night because I don't want calls on Thursday. We start showings Friday maybe, or it's Saturdays at open house unless they just start yelling at us. And we have open house. Yeah. Who here likes open houses or thinks they're a good way to get business and yet has so much trouble getting one? Cool. When you take a listing, don't be part of the problem, please. Like, don't list it on Monday. You're not going to be able to do an open house. And if you don't like open house, and this is the other, like, okay, we have to take care of each other as a realtor community. If you hate open houses, Me too. And they're a great way to get, they're actually how I started my business. I think I did so many, I just can't possibly do another one. And yet offer them up to your office. The more showings, the better for your seller, period, end of story, always, unless there's for some reason they truly don't want one. Like if they're at all open, it's better for them and you're helping somebody else. And yet most of you are here today because you want more business and you're not like, no, everything's totally perfect. You wouldn't be here if it was. So list them on a day that will allow you to do an open house. Like it's super simple. And also just, this is not to get more listings. This is so you can sleep and, not cry at the end of every day. Like if you're gonna cut off showings on a Sunday evening, make the offers due sometime Monday. Like, do you really want to review offers at 9 o'clock on Sunday and build a spreadsheet? That sounds awful. So be intentional with what you do and your sellers will be fine as long as you lead them. If you don't lead them, they'll take the lead and be like, well, we want it on the market tomorrow. And if you don't have a plan, you'll go, okay, hey, you know what? I totally understand you want it on the market tomorrow and we're going to get it done quick. Don't you worry. Here's what we do. This is our process. We're going to have pictures taken. We'll put it on the market Thursday night or Friday morning or whatever yours is. I'm not saying mine's right. I'm just saying have a standard and stick to it. Again, it makes you look like more of a professional. It makes your life more predictable. It creates more opportunities as far as being able to hold open houses, being able to door knock the neighbors if you want to. And I know y'all live in HOAs. I am an ask for forgiveness person. Inviting someone to an open house does not sound like soliciting to me. It's an invitation. How long are you going to keep it listed? What is the deal? Like, you can get more listings by doing that. Don't forget the rule of 3. Like, this has been a thing for years. This has been tracked for years. On any given, if 123 Main Street goes for sale, within 2 or 3 blocks, 2 more people are going to move within the next few months. It's just what happens. Everybody's constantly thinking about it anyways, because we are real estate obsessed in this country. And so they see the sign, they see all the cars, they see how quickly it's sold. Somebody else is going to sell. So are you going to go get it? Or are they going to call their cousin that sold 2 houses last year? Like, you go get it. So what is your plan? There's an agent that when I started in California, her name's Elizabeth Doe. She's one of Gary's top 100 now. She's been on panels. You might have seen her. She's the same age as me and like a billionaire. So she makes me a little mad and she's sweet. She started and she built her business. She never had a geographical farm. And yet every listing that she took, there was a just listed card. And that I forget how many around, but there was a just listed card. There was a pending card, like a contract card. Then there was a just sold card. Then there was a second just sold card, like she forgot that she sent it 30 days later. And then 6 months later, there was one more just sold card. And she built a massive business by doing that because what she created were these little miniature farms. So maybe it's mailing, again, depending on where you are, maybe it's door knocking. There's an agent in my market center up in Tampa. I've talked to her a while, she's probably done it again. And yet she was actually struggling a little bit. She finally found a listing. She had a buyer and she went door to door in this particular neighborhood looking for, it was a no soliciting neighborhood. She did it anyways because she was hungry. So she went, and I'm not saying to go get yourself in trouble. She went and she found a place, wasn't right for her buyer. They listed it. And then she kept doing it. And within a month's time, she took 4 listings in this one neighborhood. And she had taken like 4 listings in a year and a half. So so what are you doing around your listing? Because here's the other thing. If I was solely selling right now, and I took a listing and I got 3 offers or 32 offers or 100, I mean, like, Jesus, some of this stuff is insane. I would have them printed out, sorry trees. I would have them printed out and I would be going door to door at closing, or even once it went under contract, like, hey, you know what? I just sold the house around the corner, 123 Main Street. These 17 people wanted it and didn't get it. Is there like even a crazy number that would make you sell? Yes, no, whatever. And I do actually, like, I'm not exaggerating, I would print them out, even though your arm might get tired. I would take them with me because there's something more impactful about actually, like, no, for real, these are the people. Can we talk? So again, are you leveraging your listings to get more listings so that you don't have to start the cycle all over again every time? So that's one thing. Are you putting a sign up? I know things sell so quick and it's real tempting to save the 30 or 40 bucks that it is to put the sign up. Like, buyers are hungry. They're driving around. Neighbors pay attention. Every neighborhood has got people that are nosy neighbors and know all your business. I just moved, I know for a fact. Everybody knows all of our business. We haven't even unpacked yet. So is your sign up? Are you putting your under contract rider up if you're allowed to in the neighborhood? Are you putting the sold one up? Because those neighbors that are watching and they know how quick it's sold. So like, are you leveraging that? Are you answering your phone? Please answer your phone. When you take a listing, people are calling you. Now, some of them might be buyers, I know, and take the call. Like, and that's the other thing I want to say, like, I think last year, I didn't, because I stay away from buyers because, I think it was 13 closings last year from buyers who called on one of our listings and it wasn't the right one for them. And they wanted to work direct with the listing agent. And yet it was, well, okay, but so how's that working for you? Do you really want to keep trolling the internet? And like, and it was that conversation. Now I know this is a listing class. Now we're talking about picking up more buyers and yet the check spends the same. So are you doing that? Because those of you that take listings, are you getting way more calls from consumers than you used to on your listings? Okay, we are. They're tired. They're waiting for somebody to be bold and brazen enough to actually close them, to work together professionally. So are you doing that? All right. All right. Let me just, cool. That must be dead. Okay. All right, so you sell the listing. Who here, let's have a transactionals anonymous meeting. Who here maybe used to be, I know you aren't now, used to be like extremely transactional within their business, like turn and burn? Just me? Liars. Yeah, I know, yeah. Don't do that. Who here ever struggles with calling someone in their sphere because they've waited too long to call them? Cool, so just don't do it anymore. Like unless there's people in here closing like 500 deals a year, like y'all are okay. Like every time you close a deal, especially a listing, just keep in touch from the get. I think something that we really have to remind ourselves of is that people, they think we're best friends. They totally, even the ones that are like all buttoned up and very professional, we spend so much time, we talk with them so much, we visit them so much in this short period of time, and they think we're best friends, and then we disappear on them. It's so mean. Like they want to be connected with you. They want to give you referrals, and yet the average person doesn't necessarily understand that you're referral based or what that really looks like, or they think you only work in the one gate and not in the other. Like you have to train them. And you can do that by keeping in touch, because otherwise it's creepy. If you don't have any relationship and you just call once a year saying, hey, do you have any referrals for me? No, bye. Well, that's creepy. And yet if you're in relationship with people, you can ask for that. So don't do that. Don't ghost people. I'm not going to turn it into a social media class, except I built my business primarily through social media. First of all, put your clients on your social media. I know there's people in this room that are like, no, like just do it. You're supposed to be a human. You're allowed. They want real. Tell your story. If you have an interesting closing, if you have an impactful closing, if you work with the first time buyer that saved for 22 years, if you saved somebody from foreclosure, if you went, I just had one of my agents walk into a house, show it with no notice, and there was a pig inside. Like that was funny. That was funny. So like, tell your story, and you're allowed to talk a lot about what you do on social media as long as you make it interesting on some level. Now, if all you're doing is posting links to your brand new 3-bed, 2-bath listing, that's why you get unfollowed. So don't be afraid to tell your story, because when you keep in touch with somebody, and yet in between, when you're communicating with them, they see what you do, they're reminded what you do, it is really easy to get referrals from them. Does anyone in here know what the promise is? Okay. I would highly recommend using that. And I will give you the easy, like, I don't have the script here, I'm just going to give you my version of it. Tony Baroni, well, actually, Mike Hicks started this, and then Tony Baroni updated it. This would be something you would start back at your first meeting with your person, and yet you're gonna say something along the lines of this. It's my goal to make sure that we give you the absolute most amazing real estate experience that you can have, just a 10 across the board, and that's my commitment to you. And when we deliver on that promise, when we give you a fantastic experience with this sale or with this purchase or whatever you're talking to, I have two things I'd like to ask for, and would that be okay? They will say yes 100% of the time, by the way. Great. You know what? The first thing I'm going to ask is that by the end of the transaction, you give us a 5-star review, and you'll tell them where you want to be reviewed. That's all details. That you give us a 5-star review, because I mean, it's such a big part of how we earn our business. So would that be okay? Yeah, of course. And it will be. And now they've said they could do it. So if they don't do it, you get to hold them accountable, which is cool. The second thing I'm going to ask for is that somewhere between now and when we close on your sale or on your purchase, it's inevitable that you're going to talk to somebody who has a real estate need, whether they're buying or selling, or maybe they're going to remodel, or they need to refi, whatever it is. Because now you've taken the pressure off, by the way, of it has to be somebody who can make the money. Just somebody's going to have a real estate need. And would you refer at least one person to us by the end of this transaction? Yeah, totally. They'll say yes every time. And not that, like, we're at the end and now I'm going back to the beginning. You're going to have that conversation. You're going to touch on it throughout as you call and you check in on them. Like, and if you've got leverage, your assistant's going to ask this too. Like, hey, you know, I just want to check, like, how are we doing on the promise? Is everything great? Yeah. And just to go back, just so you're not like, we can't do that. Part of what you will do in that initial conversation is say, hey, I just want to make sure and I tell you what the promise really is. When I tell you I'm going to give you a great experience, it's not that everything will go right. There will be some hiccups along the way. My promise to you is that we're going to make sure that we fix them quick. In fact, my goal is to fix them before you even know about them, and then we'll laugh about it later. And yet, so it's not that things will go perfect. It's that we're going to take the best care of you and get you through it. And then you ask for the things in return, and then you get to hold them accountable. I want y'all to remember that the best time to ask for referral is anytime. The most effective time to ask for referrals from your people is while you're working with them and right at closing. They are happy with you when you're working with them. Maybe there's moments that get, you know, crazy and you're not going to ask in that moment. And yet there's plenty of moments where they're happy. They're happy at closing. I don't care if you had like the most contentious deal ever. When they get their check, they're happy. So it's a great time to ask for referrals then. And again, going back to like that rule of 3, right? When they're selling or they're buying, they're talking about it to their friends, to their family, they're posting their wins or their loses on social media. They're going to come across other people who are looking to buy and sell. So don't be afraid to ask for the referrals, and ask for the referrals during or at the end of the transaction. You don't have to wait till 3 or 6 months later. There's no reason for that. And a great way to ask for referrals that always, for the people who feel weird doing it, especially with the people in their sphere, or whoever, you know, if it's somebody in your sphere and you've never worked with them, you know, hey, I love being friends with you, or I love being your cousin, whatever it is. Like you're just so awesome to be around. So I'm assuming that your friends and family are just like you. So do you know anybody like you who I could help buy or sell? So you're complimenting them. Now, if you've done business with them, to me, it's a little more organic, and it's just like, I loved working with you. Like, you were just one of my favorite clients, and I'm sure that the people in your world are just like you. So I was just wondering if you knew anybody who was looking to sell or buy real estate that I could talk to. You get very far with people by giving them a compliment. And the truth is, you don't have to do that, and you can just ask. And yet I know that there are a lot of people in this business who struggle with the ask. There's a way to get around it, because you've always won when you've made somebody feel special. So that's about the end of what I have. So I'm open to any questions, listing related or not. I'm an open book, and I committed to being here until 2. And there's my contact information. Truly, like, if there's anything I can ever do for any of you, don't be shy to ask. What questions can I answer? Or we'll do both. What questions can I answer? And maybe if anybody's got an aha they can share, not to fluff me up, like I'm cool. It's that something might have hit you, or you might have wrote something down or written something down that somebody else didn't get, and you're going to help them by sharing it. So who's got a question or an aha? Yes, sir.
There were 2 websites mentioned for the automation of the
Yes. Oh, so Flip Snack.
Flip Snack.
I know, it's really weird.
Scooby snack.
Yeah, Flip Snack, like a Scooby snack, exactly. Except like, You know, I don't remember. Is it CK? Okay, great. So flipsnack.com, and then it was issue without the E, ISSU.com. Oh, 2 U's. Oh, so it really is issue.
ISUU.
ISSUU. 2 S's, 2 U's. What else we got? Yes.
I love your simplified promise. What was the, can you repeat like a little bit? Like, the-
Yeah. I mean, because I'm all about abbreviating because I move too fast. You know, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm really excited to work with you, and it's our goal on the team to make sure that we give you the absolute best real estate experience that you could ask for. So when we deliver on that, I would like to ask for 2 things in return. Would you be okay with that? They'll say yes. They'll always say yes. Don't tell yourself another story. Now, they might jokingly be like, well, yeah, as long as you deliver. Okay, great, I'm going to deliver. Okay, well, the first thing I'm going to ask for is that by the end of the transaction, you give us a 5-star review on pick your website or pick your 3 or whatever it is that you guys use. There's no right or wrong. Reviews are so important to us, and it's how we kind of gain validity in the community. So would you do that for me? Absolutely, great. Okay, and then the other thing that we're going to ask for is would you find us a referral between now and the end of the transaction? And know that it's going to be easy, because as you're in the process of selling, you're going to come across other people. So whether it's a buyer, a seller, somebody who needs refi help, or maybe somebody that's looking to remodel their house, whatever it is, if it's real estate related, would you refer that to us by the end of the transaction? They'll say yes. Okay. And then I would go into, and just for clarity, I want to explain, you know, what a perfect 10 transaction is. Things will go wrong, I promise you. That's the nature of this beast. My promise is that we're going to get you through it with the least harm and the most fun, and we'll do our best to tell you about the problems after we fix them. And yet we're going to get you through it. Is that okay? They'll say yes. So that's the conversation, and that's not a script. That's literally just, I know what the promise is, and that's how I say it. So, yes.
So this might be more for the agents that are on your team, but what's like a day in the life of an agent on your team? Like, what does their schedule look like?
So much caffeine. So I run a business that's different than most. So I have mostly experienced agents, therefore they're not, I mean, everybody runs on a structure, and not like, I don't have everybody's in the office from 8 to 11. That's not how we roll. Some days they're with clients all day. Some days they're in the office all day prospecting. So we have my particular team, everybody is allowed to work with buyers and sellers. We don't have specialists. And so that everybody's day is different. I mean, I've got half of my agents work out of an office, the other half work from home. I've got people who are listing heavy, who are buyer heavy. Like it's honestly all over the place, very appointment heavy. And my goal with anybody on my team is that they live a life worth living. And so, like, for instance, so most of my agents don't really work on weekends or evenings, with exceptions here. They're like, I'm not here to like, hey, never did. Like, they rarely work on evenings. That's most of the people that are on my team were already high producing agents. And that's kind of been what I've worked with them, because that's what's important to me, right? Like I want time with what's important to me, and my clients are important. They fund my business. They're not that important. They're not more important than my family, than my friends, than my health, than my wealth, than my happiness. And so that's kind of what we work on. So their days look different every day, and yet they are pretty structured in when they work, and what, you know, the key to success is what you say yes and what you say no to. It's pretty simple, you know, and for people, I don't have 9 kids, y'all are amazing. And yet I joke all the time because I hear it, when I travel and teach bold, like, I don't have time, I've got too much on my plate. I'm like, okay, well, here's what my schedule looks like. I don't know what you're doing with your time. It's not, you all have plenty of time. It's what you choose to put in it. And I know that's not always easy, so I'm not downplaying anything. And what you say yes and what you say no to is what stands between you and massive success in all things. Yes.
So I just moved from Illinois and I'm just getting started in real estate. What are some tips in building relations and clients in an area that you don't know anybody?
So the first thing I would tell you is do not discount the people in Illinois, because 2 things. It's cold there and they would like to move here. So there's that. Also, maybe it's cold there and they want to move somewhere else. Maybe they don't mind the cold and they're going to move, like you could make referral income. So the biggest thing that I see with relocated agents, which I've done, I started in California, then I moved to Fort Myers, then I moved to Tampa. Don't discount your past database. Like, go all in on them. If you already were all in, stay there. And if you didn't, start now, even though you moved. Utilize those relationships. Something else to keep in mind is as you start to meet people here, here's the beauty about having a small database. Your rate of return is much higher if you treat it right. Because if you've only got 20 or 30 or 50 or 100 people in your database because you're new here, you have plenty of time to build a super strong relationship. So don't be afraid, like stop short of stalker, and yet don't be afraid to go all in on the people that you do meet. Other than that, like go out and talk to people. I know that's a very rudimentary answer. Like just talk to people. You live in an area where people transplant all the time. Like if you pass 5 strangers, at least 3 of them are also really hoping to meet people, whether professionally or personally. So don't be afraid to just talk to people and start up a conversation. Gosh, if you have any interests, that like any hobbies or interests, like find a group, find a club, insert yourself into an existing group. And that's a great, I mean, my goodness, you could have 8 or 10 connections that could get your business right off the ground. You don't need to jump to 500 people locally overnight. So that's what I would say. Utilize those Illinois people. It's really cold there. I don't know if you're aware, it's really gross. So Rebecca knows. Yeah. So what else? Anything else? Yes.
I was just curious, how does that work when you expand from Marco Island up to Newport Richey?
So when I started, so I have an expansion team with KW. So we're basically in more than one market center. I started in Fort Myers. I decided I didn't like living. Well, before I decided I didn't like living there, what I had found over time, I'm sure you guys have it up here, we're so transient in Florida, and we get these buyers all the time that want to move to Florida, and yet they look in 10 different cities because they have no idea where they're going to go. And I just got kind of sick of sending referrals out or not even getting the opportunity to do that. And so the thought with expansion is, well, what if we covered an area big enough that when somebody came to us to look in Fort Myers and they wanted to look in Punta Gorda, in Sarasota, in Tampa, in Orlando, and whatever the places, that we could help them, not one agent, and yet that okay, well, cool, you're gonna work with me here, and you're gonna work with Chris here, and you're gonna work with Andy here, and you're gonna have one standard of service, and it'll be easy, and we'll find you the right house. So that's how it started, the thought of it, and then, but really it was, I had 1 million kids, and there's no kids in Fort Myers, and so we moved up to Tampa. I mean, that's what really happened, and I didn't want to shut that business down. I mean, when I moved, we were already like a 100+ unit a year business, and I was like, well, I'm not giving that up. So I had my assistant at the time get his license and go into sales, and he killed it. And then we've got a team there. We've got a team out of the Punta Gorda office that covers a really wide area. And then we've got Tampa and we've got Orlando. And our goal is to continue to spread through Florida. You know, expansion teams do it different. There's a lot of them that ping pong all over the country, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just like the concentrated effect. So my goal is to cover as much of Florida as possible in the next few years, and we'll see what goes from there. So yeah, it's different agents. They're all on they're all on the team. So we meet virtually, we meet in person once a quarter, we meet virtually weekly. And then they function. My particular team is very much like Keller Williams. Like, y'all are allowed to run whatever business you want under the umbrella of Keller Williams. So it's a business within a business. That's how my team is. So we've got fairly independent agents that are there for the support, the camaraderie, the transactional support on the back end, and, you know, referral opportunities. Anything else? Cool. I appreciate you all. Thank you for coming in today.
Now do you guys know why I love it?
They're like, no. Yeah. Yes.
I have a personal question.
Yeah. What's that? Oh my God, the best thing ever. Warby Parker. So yeah, so I never tried it because I didn't want to get glasses in the mail. But they have two, really not that far from you. They have, I don't know if they have any here. They have 2 stores in Tampa. So they go in, the service is great, glasses are like they could shoot. So where like, I mean, when I got these, I bought 2 pair for less than I used to pay for 1 pair, like at Costco, like at Lens. So yeah, Warby Parker, I'm a super huge fan. Thank you.
Yeah, with you and I love somebody that just speaks from the heart and it's not, you know, just moves. Oh, really?
That's awesome. Always here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I've always been, I've been with KW since 2006. I've just been I've always been KW. I truly love this company. I wouldn't have half of the amazing things in my life to do. Congratulations. I don't remember where. Brand new agent or new from another company? Okay. Oh my gosh. That's super cool.
She's gonna be great. I think this is what she needs. Because you have support, training.
Are you involved with it? So he does interviews. He just interviewed this guy. But he did $12 million first year.
I did all this.
Well, so, okay, how, like that just happened, like a week ago, join that group.
11 million, my
Super there's a group on Facebook. I remember. If you change it, it's recorded, you can go back, it's not giving you, they just hear like the numbers. Yeah, there's, it's a blank check.
Fantastic, 6 people commission for the month. Like, that's what I want right there.
No, it's working out.
But I don't hang on to that as my end all be all, because if you really want to have success, you gotta know.
It's all about the process of
It's all about the process, it's about, you know, just really the relationships when you talked about. Excuse me. Really, I like running a business that's based on my core people in my life. So I don't really like to do cold calling. Do I want to grow and make more money? Yes, but I'd rather make it and more time in my life. Right.
That's a beautiful life.
Important to me. Like, I don't like showing 30 houses. So I can't remember the last time I've shown 30 houses, if I ever did in my life. I think if you educate people, and I know this is a different market. I've never been in, nobody has ever been in this market because we never had COVID, we never had, I mean, the growth. It's a new market. Like I went through the short sales, you had to adapt to that market. And then, you know, when it was a buyer's market, and now it's a seller's market, and now multiple offer market, and escalation clauses, and things like I never, so I'm learning as I go along, and then you kind of master that, so you put your buyers in the best position to get their offer considered and hopefully accepted, you know? So I don't think it's staying educated. Educating is really important for all of us. I think, you know, people that are in the business, like me, you should be here today. Like, don't ever think you know everything, because we don't. Huh?
Oh, she can?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Even though it's just for
great.
ALC, she's new.
I
because of
know,
you,
and I hate to
so
leave her, yeah.
I'd love to have her.
So great though. If you ever have any questions, you have my number, right?
Yeah.
That's
Still
so
have
funny.
it,
So I have
right?
a
I'm
friend
pretty
out
sure.
in Naples.
No,
Is there. and
probably have a business card on.
Oh,
And
really?
she was
I don't know
there,
what's
PW there.
Yeah.
PW down south.
So, yeah, I've been, Cheryl's been working with me for the last couple of weeks, been
And she's
great.
still KW.
I didn't know you gave me the whole thing, she's doing a great job. You gave me the whole book, I'm so excited.
Oh, you said there's something in your, Alex, in your
Really, really.
That's what I'm saying, that's like saying, like, not.
Yeah,
And a big
Not
fan.
tangible things, 'cause I travel places.
yeah, right?
And that's why I say like.
That's great. No,
got a
definitely
good
call
one.
me. And Cheryl, I said, if you ever need help or any,
I always need help.
but have we,
I know.
how has that been, our little education over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah.
I have learned. Well, it was so nice to meet you. Yeah.
Oh my God, I have so many questions.
Yeah. Okay, so.
So,
Yeah,
So right now, I'm
Talk.
having a video from the and then we'll be done.
It's very common, unfortunately. But yeah, no, reach out to me. I'll connect you. She'll take great care of you.
All right, sounds good, thank you.
Because I know you probably talk about email.
So Bold is a 7-week, like it's an immersive coaching program. So it's, you spend almost a full day, one day a week, 7 days in a row. And it's a combination of a
So
class
the bigger clothes
and
and
a coaching experience.
we're close to it anyway.
And my whole, everything got created out of it, which is why I coach it. So next time it comes, you should take it. It will, you'll come out of it on fire, and it's good for mindset too. So this is the great thing.
This looks familiar. I went away and
I ask you one.
Yeah, of course you can.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
So I had buyers that put in like 6 offers, fine each. Ended up running it because it was kind of a nice.
Yeah.
But bottom line is they got the dog too. So I take advantage of
Yeah,
that.
I'm glad you feel
Buyer
better.
team That I was, I mean, because they didn't have.
No, I
information.
came
had
from
it
a
all.
corporate law,
So
real
now,
estate.
so they know it's the-
Well, and I think, see, this is where I feel like,
Those
I know everybody's doing it.
I mean, what-
So,
I think you can send sold because you still represented the deal.
So, yeah.
So I think you can do that. I think you might have to say represented the buyer. And also this is where I'm passionate about like telling your story in social media. Because you can't call it, be like, let me tell you a story. That would be weird. And yet you can share